Hello and welcome to the MRR Secrets podcast. I'm your host, Gary Wilson. You can call me V. I'm the Master of Shadows here. And with us today, we have Suzanne Taylor from Taylor Consulting, who has built a paid community of 7,500 members that brings in around $75,000 per month in monthly recurring revenue. And we were just talking about how one does this. Thank you for hopping on. I really appreciate it.
Oh, you're so welcome. Love geeking out on stuff like this.
Yes, I know it's all really exciting, and I think it's there's lots of different ways and lots of different models to do things. And
Yeah.
so what I always find really interesting is, just bringing something to people that they maybe haven't thought about before, or like just a bit of like what it actually takes to get to certain places. And your example is really, really cool. I think a lot of people are thinking about the kind of lower ticket side of how do we create a paid community? How do we make that thing thrive? What do I even need to consider to make that stuff happen? And yours is a really great example of all that stuff. So
Thank
again,
you.
I really appreciate you jumping on. I
Absolutely.
I didn't know you from before. This feels like this is our first contact. Really, we haven't been speaking for very long, have
Yeah,
we?
we have I think we had a couple, little quick Facebook interactions, but
Mm,
um, I kind of fly under the radar actually. I've been in the online space for like 15 years and my business was originally built in person. So
okay.
I tend not to be like super visible. Um, I don't know. It's interesting. I'm kind of looking at where am I visible and what does that customer acquisition look like? And gosh, it really comes from me speaking and meeting people.
You were meeting people in person. That's how the whole thing began.
Yeah, my business I started in 2009 as a health coach. Came from the medical field and just wanted to do something that was more impactful for people's wellness journey rather than sick journey.
Mm,
So that's where I started. And my business started in person. I was teaching fitness classes and doing nutrition with clients and very quickly realized, oh, I've been an entrepreneur for 30 years. My first business I started in 1992 before social media.
hmm.
So, built a very incredible community with that business just on word of mouth and what we're
This sort of
doing
stuff.
right
Yeah.
now. And I realized that no matter what I've learned online, as far as attracting people, whether it's paid advertising or attraction marketing, the thing that's always worked best for me is having a conversation, having somebody get inspired by what I say, what I do. I walk my talk, do all the things that I talk about. And so when I was looking at building community around my health coaching practice, it was very, very similar. People would come to my exercise classes, um, or they would walk in and see that I was the teacher and they would go, oh, her. Oh my God, it's going to be horrible. And they loved it. So that built my list originally.
Okay.
And I came onto Facebook and started a community around healthy lifestyle. And back then, Facebook groups were totally different. And it quickly grew to about 4,500 members. And all of my clients came from that group or from my fitness classes. I didn't have
Okay.
to do anything else.
Wow.
So I started transitioning my business in probably 2012 or 13. I got my master's in positive psychology because nutrition and fitness start up here, how you think about yourself, how you think about food, how you think about movement. And I just noticed an immense need with people to do that.
Sure.
So, build another Facebook group, attracted more people to what I was doing, and all of my clients were coming from that community. And they were both free communities at that
Mm,
point. And let's see, 5 years ago, I got inspired to offer a business coaching sort of program. And 60 people signed up from my group. And I was like, okay, so all this business knowledge needs to be put to use. How do I do that? So again, went to community events, started speaking on authentic sales, authentic connection, because it's how I've built a coaching practice
Sure.
in 3 different niches in the last 15 years. And it just took off. And I want to say overnight success, but it wasn't. It took 10 years.
Yeah, it's an
And
overnight 10-year story.
yeah,
Yeah,
yes.
absolutely.
Um, So when I was going to do a business coaching like content membership, I've had courses. I've done webinars, free
Hmm.
and paid. I've done paid Facebook groups. I've done an off social media platform that was free and one that was paid. Like I've literally tried it all.
You've done it all.
And a coach inspired me that I worked with who was $10 a month, and he scaled his whole business based on this $10 a month massive value. I paid $10 a month to be part of his program for 5 years, and then he offered a lifetime deal at $250, and I bought it. He offered a coaching certification for $1,000. I bought it. So, like, the lifetime value of a $10 client can be
Mm,
really incredible when you do it right.
right.
So this time, I created a Facebook group. Right now, I have about 800 members in that free community. And then I started marketing my $10 a month content membership. And that quickly grew. And I have a huge email list, obviously, from all these years of doing different things, and started doing some podcasts, started doing some interviews like we're doing right now. And my list grew by about 100 people a week. And when I go to a speaking event, same thing. I speak, my list grows, my followers grow. And I won't say I'm the biggest person with followers, maybe 25,000 followers across 2 or 3 platforms.
Mm,
But the ones I have are typically $10 a month people because they see the value. And 6 months ago, I changed platforms. So I went from Teachable for my $10 a month vault
yeah.
to Substack
Okay.
because I wanted to have a $10 a month option and a $100 a month option. I wanted that next level for people who wanted to get in the room with me twice a month.
Right.
And so that's just launching right now. And of course, it's launching to my $10 a month members first.
That's so exciting. I think there's so much to unpack that because you're so good at this, you've breezed over it. But I want to pull it back a little bit, right? Because
Yeah, I do have
there's
that. I do have
there's
that.
that, and it's the curse of the highly capable is to make everything sound easy breezy.
Yeah.
Right? So it's like, oh, you
Yeah.
just grow a free community here, and suddenly you've got 7,500 paying clients.
Hmm.
Right. So, okay, cool. So it's super interesting to me because there's a couple of core concepts that I think are crucial that wherever people are listening to this or watching this, I think is really, really important that you pull out. The first one that you mentioned is effectively list building, be it in a free community or be it in the actual list, right? So a space where people can consume your stuff. I imagine you do both email and then content across your free groups and stuff like that, right?
I'm really bad at email.
Oh God. Hire someone who's great at email. You're gonna have a blast.
I'm
But but
I'm
but
I'm
still,
in the process of that.
okay,
I will
cool.
say everybody that's in my Facebook group, those 800 people,
Yeah,
they have met me or worked with me. So
okay.
they're my advocates.
So
They're
advocates,
the people that really feel connected to me.
right? And they're the ones who also engage on everything, right? So
Yes.
you have a very very powerful tribe in there.
Yes.
That's cool. Okay, so that's the first. We've got the kind of community list building side of things, and then what really strikes me is the leveraged work. it's the
Mm.
podcasts, it's the stage speaking, it's the interviews, all that stuff. If you're building your list by 100 people a week without ads, that's a
Mhm.
really impressive feat.
Thank you.
That's very, very cool. And so
Thank you.
talk to me a little bit about that. Is that something that just came naturally to you? You just saw the solution and you were like, I just need to be out there more and people will gravitate towards what I do, or was that strategic? How did you
Oh,
get
it
to that
was
point
not
in your growth?
strategic at all in the beginning. It was, this is what I can afford to do.
Okay.
And what I could afford to do was speak to groups of people, just in my local area at first. And then that grew to the online space. I could be a guest speaker for smaller mastermind groups filled with my ideal clients, could add value to them. And when I look at list building from a conscious standpoint, it was never really conscious until about 5 years ago. It was totally organic for me, and that's why I say I'm not great at emails. I do great with inviting people to events. I
Mm,
do incredible with social media engagement and pulling people into the Zoom room. I look at social media as a opportunity to meet and connect with people, not to sell them something on social media, but to have them come into my Zoom room and engage with me and get what I'm doing in this entrepreneurial journey and inspire. So hopefully they feel like they can do it too. And so intentional list building didn't start until about 5 years ago. And that's when, the real growth actually started to happen. My list always hovered at about 2,500 people, and I would scrub it. And then 5 years ago was when I started doing podcasts and guest appearances. And every time, all I'm concerned about is if I speak to you, my ideal client, in this room, then connect with me on LinkedIn or subscribe
mm.
to my newsletter. That's it.
Okay, I love that. And for anyone watching or listening, the link to that will be below this video, wherever this is
Thank
listed, right?
you.
So you can go away and do that.
Thank you.
Okay, cool. And so I really like that. I think this is something I've been thinking about this more lately. It's actually part of the reasons why we even started this MRR Secrets podcast, because part of it for me was how do we bring more of this stuff to the world, right? And so
Mhm.
part of it is we get to use each other's audiences, which is great, but we also create something that other people aren't going to see because this is real life examples without
Yeah.
necessarily the like super flashy, look how many cars we're driving, that kind of stuff. Like it's just the
Great.
real, it's the real world humble side of things. And so okay, so you went from health from a health offer and built community in that space to a
Mhm.
biz growth offer and then built community in that space with a really conscious direction of um, basically branding, but driving that singular conversion was always subscribe to this or
Yes.
join my network, right? That was the core focus that was going on in that.
Yes. And now with this idea that I've had to take the $10 people, this mass of people that I
Mm,
have, and make a special offer to them for an upgrade to $100 a month or $1,000 a year. I know that's going to drive a large
it's going to drive a
revenue
lot of
chunk
people,
for me, right?
100%.
But there's also the joy that comes in with taking those $10 a month people, and now they're going to be invited into the Zoom room with me twice a month. And those sessions, they light me up. So
Mm,
I'm excited to deliver my personal development knowledge, my business growth knowledge, all in one magical package. I've spent 25 years growing myself, and I think my clients appreciate that the most because I've done all this for myself. There's nothing worse than hiring somebody who's going to teach you to have a successful Facebook group, and the only reason they're successful is because nobody has a successful Facebook group.
right.
And like there's like an irony in that online space, especially
Mm,
now, with
yeah.
people making income claims. And I never talk about how much I'm making. So this is like super vulnerable for
Yeah,
me,
yeah, yeah.
you
And I
know?
look, and I appreciate you being willing to share that. I think that the reason this is so important, honestly, is not because, well, it's clout for you. I genuinely think what you're doing is amazing. But I think it teaches something that people don't think about, which is being in the game for long periods of time and the
Mm,
patience of just building something. And
yeah.
so this is something I really want to touch upon with you because I think it's a really important perspective. Perhaps a shift that you've gone through, or either way, I'm sure you'll have wonderful things to talk on it. Is where I come from historically. Before I got into the idea of recognizing the power of monthly recurring revenue and all that stuff, in the bro scaling from like 3-4 years ago, that was all high ticket. Everything had to be high ticket, or what were you even doing? What was the point? Right, and
Mhm.
all this kind of stuff, and this notion of it all has to be super easy, and people are going to give you 20 grand today, like ask for all this, like all this sort of stuff. But so what I want to know is, for you, the decision to go into monthly recurring revenue again, was that conscious, or was that something that you fell into by virtue of growing paid communities? Like, what was the kind of strategy that you were going through when
Mm,
you made that decision?
I don't again, I don't know if I made a strategy about it except for where do I want to be, you know, 10, 15, 20 years from now? I want to still be doing this when I'm 80. My mentor is 80 years old
I love that.
and she's the highest paid female coach ever. She just retired. And she didn't have a monthly recurring revenue thing. She didn't need to. Um, and I just think, at least for me, those $10 a month people, turning them into $100 a month people, turning those people into, 6,500 or a $10,000 3-month offer, which I run that twice a year.
Hmm.
And I typically don't have to market it except to my email list. Then my one-on-one coaching, consulting, mentoring, it's like you know, it's not true coaching, it's coaching, consulting with some mentorship.
Sure.
I can charge whatever I want for that, not to be arrogant about it, but I can just decide,
Yeah.
oh, it's 5,000 a month, or oh, it's 10,000 for 3 months or 2 months. Like I get to make that up because I've already built up the street cred
That's it.
to, like, back up what I have to say. And I found that I don't advocate low ticket offers for people unless they have something really substantial that the masses need. And I'll give you this example because I think it's really helpful. A LinkedIn influencer wanted to hire me. We met each other through networking. Absolutely incredible at what he does. He has about 30,000 followers and he has a course that's $500. And he thought, I'm going to have a $30 a month recurring revenue thing. And I advised him against it. And I will tell you why. Because everything in that $30 a month recurring thing was in his $500 course. And I said, well, what's going to be different about the membership versus the course? And he said, well, nothing. I said, then your course sales are going to plummet and you're going to have trouble enrolling people and having them understand the value. And let's look at your followers and versus your engagement. If you have 30,000 followers and you're only getting 5 likes and 2 comments on your
Mm,
post, it's not resonating with people enough to spend $30 a month to be with you. So instead, we created a high value offer. So from the $500 course, you spent $5,000 and could engage with him twice a month for a year. And it was full instantly for 2 hours worth of work a month.
right.
So
Amazing.
every person, I think it's different, and it needs to be analyzed first before you just jump in and create.
Right,
I'm a fan of action, but I think you need to know where you're at with getting people to sign up for a lower ticket offer and what you want to make income wise. When
right.
I launched my $10 a month offer almost 10 years ago, I did not care if I made any money from it. I did. I released all expectation of 100 people are going to sign up and I'm going to make X. 200 people are going to sign up and I'm no attachment to that. I just kept doing it and doing it and doing it and providing that weekly content to go with it.
Right.
And here we are.
And that was because you were in a position where it didn't matter, really,
It
right?
didn't
Like it
matter.
was just like it didn't matter. I think this is something super crucial as well. I've noticed this as well. People get attached to different kind of models because it sounds cool, and I think both you and I are for the idea of where do you want to be in 5 years, where do you want to be in 10 years. Don't think necessarily about tomorrow, but think a little bit in the future so you can actually grow something that's meaningful and that you can actually stick to. But then a lot of people, and this is actually really interesting. I remember a couple of years ago, maybe 3 years ago, I was working with someone in the fitness space specifically, who had a 47 pounds. This was in Britain, a month
Mhm.
offer, and even then, I was like, this is going to take like the amount of money you're going to pour into ads for this to even start making you any reasonable money. This
Yeah,
isn't this isn't the money builder. This is the quality audience builder. This
correct.
thing isn't the cash cow,
Right.
right? And so what would you say? There's going to be a lot of people listening to this that are in varying sizes of audience, they're warm and cold and all this kind of stuff. If you said, this is the bucket of people who I think could probably roll out a low ticket offer and be successful with it over time, and this is the bucket of people who should stay really far away from that, how would you
Mhm.
separate those two things?
If you're already making the money that you want every month from your one-on-one or group experiences, coaching, consulting, online courses, then you can do a low ticket thing and not be attached to the outcome. So my coaching has always been my income driver. And as my coaching practice, one on one, custom, co created programs, I never did anything cookie cutter. And uh, every time I had 10 clients, my price would go up for client number 11. I call it the hairdresser principle. Once your chair is full,
I love it.
you graduate to that next level and your haircut prices go up.
Right.
Um, so that's what I worked with my mentor for years. Um, Worked with her on that, having the confidence to do that. And as that was my income. That was, my son was born at the very beginning of my coaching practice. And I didn't want to work 80 hours a week. I wanted to
Mm.
work 4 hours a day. So, how do I do this and make that happen? And that's how I started my pricing structure. And then as that gets filled, and I'm in the process of that right now. Like I have 7 one-on-one clients at my current rate, so that means 3 more and the
And the price
price
goes
goes
up.
up. Yeah.
I love it. Very cool. Okay, so to cut a long story short, if you're not already making the money that you want to make and you
Mhm.
actually worry about how fast this is going to grow, it's not the
Yep,
right time yet,
correct.
right? So
Yeah.
focus on the heavy hitters first, get yourself to the point where you're making the money you want to make, and then you can think about the long-term audience builder stuff.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah, and
Um,
I think that enables you to have the mindset of no attachment to the outcome. Sign up for my $10 a month thing. It's cool, it's awesome, but whatever. I don't care.
right.
Um,
I love
and
that.
that enables you to not care about your higher ticket offer. So you practice with that lower ticket, 20, 10, 27, 47, anything under $100, not having attachment to that, but still having it be It has to be of massive value. You have to over deliver so much, and it doesn't have to be with you live. It doesn't have to take up that kind of time. So right now, my assistant, she cut and paste all the content for my $10 a month membership. I don't do it. I decided on the content for this year and drop the content from my old Teachable and my old membership platform, drop all that into Google Drive for her. And then every week she's
She's the one who
dripping
does it.
that content. So it doesn't take any of my mental bandwidth. And when I noticed that I got 5 new people, I'm like, "Oh, well, that's cool. Wonder where they came from." And then I, you know, do a little
I love
background
that.
check, like, "Where did they come from?" "Oh, they came from one thing, one podcast I did. Let me check out that audience and see if I could do more for that type of audience." And,
Okay.
once you have some numbers behind you, you can really like analyze and tweak where you're showing up.
Mm. I think that's very clever. It's cool. So it's effectively, when it comes to the delivery of it, it's a VA run business, right? And the internal piece of it, you give all the information, and your VA, they're the ones that then go and paste it and
Hmm.
keep the community alive.
Yeah.
Very cool. I'm hearing more and more people that have amazing leveraged approaches to this kind of stuff, and that's one of them. That's absolutely perfect. So let me ask you this. So community management. There's obviously, speaking of this $10 a month community that you have specifically, the one that's got 7,500 people in it, there's going to be a lot
Hmm.
of posting, a lot of comments, a lot of people engaging, stuff like that. Who manages
Not
that?
really.
No? Okay.
Not really. Um, so I feel as though there are some comments. There are some, they'll hit reply to the email, and I reply to every single one of those.
Right.
Um, but the people who want to engage with me and comment, they're the 800 that are in the Facebook community.
Okay. So they're your 800 extremely loyal followers that would follow you to the end of the earth and do all those
Right.
things.
Right.
Okay, cool. See, I always thought, clearly erroneously, that having a community that side would be a lot of work
Mm.
inside, in terms of the actual management and the admin and the people spamming each other and all these questions people have, right?
Well, that's one of the reasons I came off of Teachable, and I came off of my own designed membership platform. I did that in like funnel software, and the reason I moved over to Substack was because it's not possible to do that. You you
Mm,
you really can't DM spam other people within that platform. You can comment if you're a paid member, you can comment on my post or comment on someone else's comment, but I can see everything. So there's none of that. You can't grab people's email address from it. I had that
right.
problem before. I've dismissed people for inappropriate language, behavior, sales
Sure.
techniques. I've seen it
Sure.
all. But I found my mentor, she uses Substack, and it's basically paid written content, and I get creative with video content and links to a database in Google Drive. But, you know, you it eliminates so much of that the maintenance or the management of it is not difficult at all.
Okay. So it's a platform where users can't actually post themselves. You're the one posting, and they can interact with your stuff. So it's very similar to like a paid community newsletter almost.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, that actually eliminates a lot of problems that other people would have with having huge communities, right? Where people are spamming each other, DMing each other,
Yeah.
creating, if you've got 7,500 people in a Facebook group that's really engaged, that's work, right? You've got probably 100 posts a day. You've got, all kinds of
Yeah.
stuff.
Now even my Facebook group with, 800 people, I have 12 community mentors.
Hmm.
And those are my inner circle people, who I refer business to. So, like my photographer, my branding person, my health coach, my emotional intelligence person, my networking guru, my digital marketing guru, my video guy. And those community mentors, they do all the work of monitoring. They're posting events every month, they're
Right.
interacting with people. So it's basically like a partner, but they get value from being with me and they provide value to my community. And that's a whole nother monthly recurring revenue model we could talk about.
Right. Right. Okay. So there's so much good stuff that I think this is what a well fleshed out business model looks like. Right? There's the very
Well,
clear.
thanks. It
there's-
didn't feel like that when it was happening.
Well, let's talk about that. So obviously, looking back on it now, so people like me looking in at this stage and going, "Wow, this is some really cool stuff."
Mhm.
But as you're saying, it didn't feel like that as it was happening, right? So what are some of the biggest challenges you faced along the way? What kind of stuff did you run into that made it feel difficult as you were going up?
Well, I've always been good at enrolling people, getting people excited, inspiring them, "Come along with me, we're gonna do this thing together." But then actually having the people perform, oh, well, that was a whole different learning curve. And that was my own leadership journey that I had to
Right,
go through. So with the community mentors, I think charging for that was number one. I had to say, here's the fee associated with being a community mentor. In exchange for that fee, you get to do live videos, you get to promote yourself, you get to have an event in the community once a month. You get to do things that the general population can't do. Plus,
right.
you get a mastermind to grow your own business twice a month with me, which would normally be $2,500, and you get it for 97 a month.
Wow. Okay. Very cool. So they effectively, I'm trying to think of some similarities. One of my clients right now is they serve MSPs and IT companies, and they have a giant Facebook group as well, like 22,000 people in there.
Hmm.
And they have vendors who do the same thing. They're allowed to pay for the right of
Yes.
promotion and engagement, that kind of stuff. It's a very cool model.
Yes.
Again, just the word that keeps jumping out for me is leverage, right? Using the audience,
Yes.
using all this stuff, and just using the resources wisely. That's what you're really doing, right?
Well, I think my vision for the Facebook group, which again is part of the free membership with
Mhm.
me, but it tends to be the most engaged people. So I will say my philosophy was 1,000 members. I'm going to have 12 community mentors, and so when it comes time for the next 1,000 members, that opens me up for another 12 community mentors.
Right,
So, scalability wise, as the audience grows, the mentors grow. And that helps me with the management, the events, having great content in the community. It's not all on
sure,
me anymore. And the revenue just grows very steadily, very slowly, which is again, I don't care about the revenue it brings. I
right,
have my experts pay because it has them value it and show up more powerfully.
sure,
I've given it for free in the past, and they don't show up as powerfully. So it's that reminder that when people pay, they stand up and they participate more and they
right,
see more value in what they're doing.
for sure. And that's part of that equation of you were saying before. One of the challenges you had is getting other people to actually perform, right?
Mhm.
Like if you put your money where your mouth is, the chances of you performing increase drastically,
Yes.
right?
Yes, and
Uh,
I think that was, again, my leadership journey and also realizing that I'm a high performer and I'm a very quick action taker. If something's working, I double down. If something's not working, I get rid of it. And, big shout out to Dr. Benjamin Hardy in for his new book, 10x is easier than 2x. So true. And I just finished reading that book, and there's so many golden nuggets in there. Can't even go into them all, but I highly recommend anybody who's looking to scale their impact and their monthly recurring revenue to really look at 10xing that membership.
Hmm. And that's in price,
Could be
or
in
is it talking
price,
about
could be in
effect?
people, could be in value.
Right. Okay. Okay. Cool. But the point is, going bigger is actually easier than trying to
Yes.
slowly increase it. Okay. Cool.
Yeah,
I
because
love
you
that.
eliminate all the things that don't get you to that goal.
Right. That's a really, and that probably applies to a lot of areas of life, actually.
Mm.
Right, because I think when we aim for a bigger goal, all these micro decisions aren't really even up for consideration. We're just talking about macro moving the needle as much as we
Yeah.
can. So we
Yeah,
really get lost in the
I
weeds.
could relate it to like a healthcare,
Mm,
my health coaching journey. The reason I was so successful with my health coaching clients is because it wasn't about what you can't eat. It was about what you can eat and where you're going. So if you follow my plan that I just gave you for the next 90 days, I guarantee that you will be down at least 40 pounds. How does that feel? Oh, that's amazing. 40 pounds in 3 months. It could be more than that. Are you ready to see? If it's more than that, you have to stay committed. So then you're focused on that future
future
goal
dream, yeah.
instead of crap, I can't have a candy bar or a glass of wine right now. You don't care about that when you become the person that you're going to be at the end. And I just think that mindset piece applies
Huge.
to business really, really well.
I think it probably honestly applies to everything, right? If you are so focused on the big thing, whether it's, you're building a great marriage, a great body, great health, great business, whatever, great relationship with your kids or your friends, whatever the things that you're focusing on, the future vision totally replaces the in the moment micro sadness that you're experiencing, right? I can't
Yeah.
have that candy bar. Oh God, life sucks.
Yeah.
I really wanted to have a donut this morning, but oh God, life sucks. It
Mhm.
eliminates all that and it just blasts past it.
Yeah, because
And
you've now I'll use Diet Coke was a big crush for
yeah,
me. Like still, there's some in my garage right now,
okay.
and when I walk out there, I hear Diet Coke, Diet Coke. Still calls to me.
Yeah.
But I had to become the person who didn't drink that. Sue doesn't do that. So
Mm,
that identity, it totally applies to business. It gets rid of imposter syndrome. It almost makes you elevated in comparison to other people who are doing what you're doing, because you're not attached to the financial aspects. All I care about are my clients' results, and so over delivering becomes easier,
right.
and over delivering for a $10 a month person is, I mean, the bar is really low
Really low.
for
Yeah.
$10 a month, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. I think that's speaking from personal experience here, a little for people listening, I'm sure other people have gone through this as well, and perhaps you have as well, Suzanne, in your journey. But I think the emphasis is so often on money making that the person you are being is oftentimes more focused on how much money you can make versus you being the person who over delivers to others.
Yeah.
And that works for a bit though. It works to a certain degree because it means that you bump up price. But then it
Mhm.
has a cap because people don't get the results. You
Mhm.
don't want to over deliver for them because it's like, I didn't want to do this much work. And all of those micro sufferings that we spoke about, oh, I can't have that candy bar. I've got to jump on a call now. God, I really wish I didn't have to. All of
Mhm.
those become a reality as opposed to the future vision of, I'm building this amazing thing. It's really going to be awesome. And
Yeah.
perhaps that's just a secret to life, generally speaking,
It
looking
might
forward
be.
and building something better. and believing in that vision. And actually, this really just boils down to purpose, right?
Mm.
Am I creating a big enough vision in the future so that I can start behaving like the person who's going to be there? Because reality, if you put me in if I'm the CEO of a $10 million a month business today, that thing
Mhm.
will burn down to the ground ASAP because I'm not ready.
Oh,
Like, I'm not being that person, right?
yeah. Yeah,
And so,
and I always use the example of my first business was a retail store.
mm,
Super unique concept, but again, before social media. So word of mouth, unique products, unique concept. It was very California, but in South Jersey. So, kids loved it and started the business with $3,000. No sign, no advertising in the basement of another store. And because of the uniqueness of what we were doing, first week I think was like $1,000 in
mm,
sales. We were like, cool. First month was $12,000. So now,
wow,
mind you, we only invested $3,000. We had to rush and restock inventory. And at the end of the first month, $12,000 in sales. This was interesting. And I was 24 and I had maybe, no, 23, no idea what I was doing, never owned a business before. And cash was coming in like crazy without a plan, without a future vision, without financial advice, without business advice. So imagine the end of year one, we had done $1 million in sales.
wow,
Well, you know what I was doing when I was 23.
yeah, yeah,
I mean, uh, the cars, the house, the
yeah,
trip, the you know, and I think back, I'm like, yep, that's what any 23-year-old would do with a million
absolutely,
dollar a year business. And luckily, was able to franchise that business. And at the end of year three, we had done about $5 million in sales, year three. And I decided to get divorced
hmm
from my business partner, who was my husband. Oh boy, what a mess. And
I bet,
from that experience, walking away from a $5 million a year business for myself, like time to preserve my
yeah,
sanity and do what I'm supposed to do with my life. um it kind of put me in a place where being attached to things, money, cars, luxury, it jumped me past that.
mm,
And I didn't have a full concept of that until very recently, that when you've had an abundance of money and you could have anything you want, those things become less important. The
yeah,
designer purse, the shoes, the car. When you can buy whatever you want, they become less important because it's no big deal.
right. It's not
And
special.
it's not special when you can go out and buy a brand new car whenever you want. And so most recently, as I've gotten older, what if it was just that mindset shift that opened everything up? And it really has. It was that those material things are not as important as life experiences, providing value, being the person you say you're going to be to other people, my word, all of that.
Mm,
And it's the concept that I heard from this podcast called The Essentialists, and they described it as something called post luxury. That,
mm,
and I was like, "Ooh, let me listen more to this." Right? And it's this concept that once you have had an abundance of money and things, since they're no longer, not that they're not nice, you know, but they don't become the driver for what you do. So if you spend your whole life wanting a Ferrari and it's all you want, I want a Ferrari, I want a Ferrari. And then you can finally afford to buy the Ferrari. And then you find out that an oil change is $3,000 and you
Mm.
find out the tires are $2,000 a piece. You're like, holy crap, what did I get
Yeah.
myself
Yeah.
into?
Should have
And
rented one.
yeah, you should have rented one for the day.
Yeah.
Um, that you realize that it wasn't the best decision, maybe. But if you have so much money that you can buy Ferrari the company, you don't care about having a Ferrari anymore. You're driving around your 66 Volkswagen Bug because you think it's cool because it was your
Right.
first car, right?
Right.
And that's what I want to aspire to.
I love that. I've thought about this many times. I haven't put it in the concept of post luxury or anything like that, but I feel that this is what I call a theory, a shit theory, right? But this is a
Yeah.
theory nonetheless. I feel that we become adults and then we spend really most of our time trying to get back to a childlike state of just enjoying silly things. That's really
Yeah.
what it is, right?
Yeah.
And I
Mhm.
feel like wealth is part of that equation because it allows us to just be like, the pressure's gone. Now I can just do stupid stuff and
Yeah.
take the pleasure in the small things that I was ignoring when I was trying to build wealth. Maybe that's what this post luxury thing is. It's
Maybe.
like just being in the moment and enjoying that. It's a really important piece. So if you guys listen to the last 20 minutes again, I think that was probably, we've spoken about business before, but I think the ideas there are more important than any of the business concepts as far as life is concerned.
Thank you.
Let
Thank
me
you. I
ask you this.
agree. I think that's well, business is life, right? And if you're
Right,
an entrepreneur, 95% of my clients and followers are entrepreneurs,
right.
business owners, right? And if you're that and you identify with that, you didn't start your business to not have a life.
Mm,
And so many times, the people I work with don't have a life. And I would argue that creating the life you want gives you the business you desire, not the other way around.
I love that. We preach the exact same thing. I call it value-based business decisions, right? We're actually
Yes.
creating a business to fit into the life we want, not letting the business decide what kind of life we have.
Yeah, I think that was one of the posts that attracted me to what you post about and what you write about was
Right,
something along those lines. I'm like, "Oh,
right.
he gets it. He
Yeah,
gets it."
yeah. And I think you only get it when you've been through suffering, though, right? Like
Mm,
it sounds like a ridiculous first world problem concept
mhm.
until you've been through the suffering of what it feels like to work 18 hours a day for a long enough period of time, and you go, I actually don't like this at all. I don't want to do this anymore, and I'd rather my pivotal moment. This is probably my most successful post that I've done, possibly ever, on my profile. Was just one of these moments where I was like, I would literally rather have a job than carry on this lifestyle
Yep.
because I was looking at the trade of the upside of making more money and all this stuff, and I was like, if it came down to it, if I had to make a choice of living the rest of my life living like I'm working right now or like I've worked in the past,
Mhm.
or having a normal nine to five and just life being okay, I would choose the 9 to 5. That's how bad this is.
Yeah.
And that was like a real moment for me. I think a lot of people must have resonated for it because it was the most successful. Now, when I say success, I mean it had like more likes than usual. Right? I'm not saying it was like the most successful post ever, but let's do this. I know that we're wrapping up on time, and I really appreciate you being here. A couple of things. So, what advice would you give to someone who is, we don't want to say brand new. What would be the right kind of person? Okay, so someone who is between, they're doing, let's say they're starting and they're starting to see success. Let's call it the 5 to 10K a month mark, right? That's the business is starting to work. Like it's not incredible yet or whatever, but it's definitely working. What would
Mhm.
be your advice for a person like that that wants to take things forward and create a business that, like what we spoke about, helps you live the life you want to live as opposed to runs your life?
Don't add anything else. Don't add another offer. Don't add a podcast or like don't add more things to your plate. Double down on that offer that is working. Either make it more valuable and more expensive or leverage it and do it in a group format.
I love that. So don't pay attention to shiny object syndrome that's telling you you should be creating content across 80 million platforms.
Put the blinders
Do
on.
what's already working and get
Yeah.
better at that thing.
Mhm.
I love that. Is that a mistake that you've ever
Yep.
made, just taking on too much
Oh, yeah,
stuff?
yep, yep. Numerous times, thinking that it was adding something else that was missing, and, I spent the last 5 years removing things. I used to have an accountability, membership, and I had 10 groups of 10 people. It encompassed so much of my time. It was very repetitive and boring to me, and I
Mm,
thought, "Why am I doing this?" And it was simply because I saw a shiny object that said, accountability was the new thing to get entrepreneurs where, and I hated
yeah,
it.
yeah,
So, I think blinders, double down on the offer that is working. So if you're making 5,000 or 10,000 a month, working one-on-one with people, you can take that same price, turn it into a group program, and elevate your one-on-one to double that price.
right. I think that is one of the easiest thing people
Yeah,
can do for sure, because realistically you can serve a bigger chunk of the market while actually doing less work anyway. Right,
yeah,
it's just a huge win. I love that.
yeah.
Cool. This has been one of my favorite conversations that I've had
Oh,
so
thank you
far in
so
this.
much.
Just because it's got the real world business application, call it the hard fact side of things, but it's also got the pillars of belief that create those actions in the first place. And I
Mm,
think that's something that's really lacking in business these days, right? We don't really talk about stuff like that. We just talk about what's your CPL and your CPA, and we're only really talking about like all these
mhm.
kind of hard numbers, but we're not actually talking about conscious business design, basically, which is what you're referring to. I
Yeah,
love
and
that.
I would say that 9 out of 10 of my one-on-one clients, come to me for the cleanup and not the, structure of building it the way they want. And believe me, the cleanup is more difficult,
Mm,
um, because if you're cleaning up something, you're deleting things. It's scary. You're walking away from income numerous times. That feels hard. So it's much easier to structure it the right way from the beginning, avoid all the mistakes I made, and structure it how I have it now moving forward. And I think that's my part of my mission or my purpose, was making all of those mistakes so you don't have to.
I love that.
At least I'm gonna
Fantastic.
I'm gonna believe that for a while.
Yeah, yeah, perfect. I love that. Cool. All right. Well, listen, we'll wrap this up. But where can we find you if we want to work with you? If we want to join your various containers that you have, what's the best way to get in touch with you?
Right on my website, which is listed right there, SuzanneTaylorKing.com. The community's listed there. You can see the different options. I have so many different events happening every month within that community, and that's really the best way to get started.
Fantastic. Okay. Well, listen. Thank you so much for jumping on, and we'll have to do it again sometime.
Yeah, I would love that. As soon as my podcast relaunches, at the end of the month, I'll get you scheduled
Bring me
and
on. Perfect.
reciprocate.
Amazing. Cool. Okay. Thank you so much,
Awesome.
Suzanne.